Welcome to Masterclass Office Hours. We'll be here for a good hour. It is 9:05. Happy to stay 5 minutes extra. Welcome. Good morning, Yuko. Thank you for introducing yourself in the chat. This is a very safe space, welcome space for public health students, professionals, regardless of where you are in your career, regardless of whether you have a job or you're looking for a job. Some folks come back even after they get a job because it's a great community to hear how everyone is doing, sort of keep a pulse on the job market. I do my best, as you know, to keep you guys kind of motivated and inspired and just keeping your options open. This is really, to help you guys with where you are in, in your space with what's going on with your applications. So anybody want to start us off? You got a great group.
Questions. Can you hear me, Zoila?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, this is Yuko. Okay. So I actually got a call back for screening, HR screening. And it's a senior data analyst job, really relevant for my background. And I was watching your Total Recall tutorials and just had a bunch of questions. So when creating that Total Recall document, do I jot down my experiences just for the qualifications that they're asking for, or also for the job responsibilities?
Oh, great question. Okay. And congrats. Yay, you go. I know you've been waiting for that. So congrats on getting a call back. Yeah, so basically the approach to total recall is that you bring your whole self to the table now, right? That's why it's total recall. And you do write primarily against the qualifications and the responsibilities, the duties, the functions, right? So those two spaces. But when it comes to the interview, to be honest, the whole entire job announcement is fair game. So what that means is you should get comfortable with just the entire language that they use, even how they describe themselves as a company or how they describe the work. I've even seen like values that are mentioned in the company be asked in a unique way to the candidates. So for example, they won't necessarily say like, "Oh, what values do you align with us?" Right? That never is the question. But I have heard them ask like, "What does health equity mean to you? What does social justice mean to you?" The one that surprised me the most was when someone asked a candidate, "What does safeguarding mean to you?" And I was like, safeguarding. And she reminded me that it was part of their values and it's about like safety and protocols and, it was just what you think it is, safeguarding. So that kind of stuff happens, just as a heads up. So the whole entire job announcement is fair game, and you're meant to like raise all of your experience, regardless of whether there's paid, unpaid, temporary, volunteer, lived experiences where you can also raise your total recall. So it's not, it's everything. And there is a way that you do it. In my update, I'm going to slow it down a little bit, but there should already be some videos on how you do like a data dump, a brain dump, right? And then you assess your trends, your weaknesses, your strengths. And then from there, you start to anticipate the questions. And then from there, you anticipate the framing of your response, right? So you first have to do like the data dumping, brain dumping in order to walk yourself through the entire preparation. Does that make sense?
That's helpful, yeah. And I
Okay.
think that answers my next question, which was like, how much research do I need to do about the organization? Like, reading their past work or and like researching about each person who's leading the work in that center. Like, yeah, I was wondering how much I need to do that, but sounds like the more I do, the better,
Yeah,
probably.
so that's a great question because that sometimes entraps us into what is it called? It if you want to research who's interviewing you for your own sake, like, oh, I wonder what background they have. I did that for my previous supervisors. I was like, oh, I'm just curious who they are, right? but nobody likes a brown noser. Nobody likes to know that they were researched. Nobody likes to know like, oh, we went to the same. Like if you happen, I think there was two supervisors that interviewed me for Kaiser, and it was the non-UCLA person that pointed out that both of us were UCLA in the other room. Right. So it's not like you have to be like, oh, hey, we're both Bruins. Right. It's just like, okay, everyone sort of knows where everybody is at the table. It's not so that you could point things out. It's more for your own sort of comfort. But besides that, I warn folks to not to go, don't go too far into studying the company. You only need to stick to the job announcement. And the caveat to that is if the company does state a specific strategy or policy or initiative in the document, in the job announcement, then you research that, right? So sometimes there'll be like, a tax bill mentioned or like some strategic plan on their website that was mentioned. Then you study that, right? But as far as like when I prep my mentees and we talk about total recall and their preparation, it's all what's on the job announcement. Just what's on the job announcement. It doesn't even matter if you know who's interviewing you. It really doesn't. But that could be just for yourself. Okay, Yuko. That would be fine.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
They
I'm so
can do like
excited for you. When's your interview?
actually, yeah, the screening is next Wednesday.
Okay.
So I was wondering like how much time should I spend on like the whole total recall? Because I could spend
It's a good,
actually.
if you're doing it, I tell you, give yourself at least 24 hours. I have a mentee who's prepping. We're preparing for her today. She has one on Thursday. So a couple days is enough. A week is plenty of time. So you can just enjoy the process, right? Because I always say every single interview is practice, right? Because even if you do well in this one, Yuko, which I hope you do, you still will likely have another interview, right? Like I think we put just so much energy into like, I just got to do this. I just got to get this one right. But it's the practice, right? It's like, okay, I got to study the job announcement. I got to practice the framing, anticipate the questions. And then from there, if you get a call back, it'll remind you to stick to the process, right? Sometimes we don't even know what we said that was right. And oftentimes I talk to mentees who feel like they didn't do very well. They're like, I don't know. In fact, my last mentee who got hired in Clark County, I know I've been talking about her a lot because I was so happy that she got just so excited. She was unemployed and now happily employed. But basically, she felt like one person was against her in her interview. Like she was like, he was just so rigid. And he was like, he just seemed like he needed more information. He just wasn't leaning in like the other ones. She just felt like she had to defend herself against him, right? And I was just like, you know what? That's okay. Maybe he just wanted honest, clarifying questions. Like, can you tell us more? What do you mean by that? Right? But she took it as like, I don't think I sold him on me, right? I don't think he believed me or I don't think he really liked me. And I just kept telling her, you have there's other people at the table. Other people are going to speak on your behalf. That's why they take notes. That's why they ask the questions. As long as you held your ground as far as the language, right, that they use, then, that's the best you can do. And she got the job. She got the job, right? So just let people be people also,
Mhm, right. Everybody's got a different
right?
style of interviewing.
Yeah.
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 Sorry, my
You'll
last
experience
question
that.
related to interview. So this job posting didn't have the salary range. So I'm a little bit scared of the HR screening. Like, what if they ask me how much I want them to pay? Like, what should I do? And that
Oh my
kind
gosh, this
of.
great question. I'm glad you asked because this is something in general you should be aware of. They could talking about the salary rarely happens like as far as like usually you see it screened, right? And they ask you for what you're willing to take when you apply, or it's towards the end. So rarely it's in the HR screening, or rarely it's in the first interview. The only thing they might say is like, are you okay with the bandwidth, right? So they might sort of disclose a range, disclose a bandwidth, and you can say, yeah, that's fine. I'm willing to work with with the organization, you know, in that bandwidth. That's fine. Other times I tell my mentees to just tell them that you're comfortable with the mid-range to higher range. Like that's fine too. Um, but as far as like feeling like you have to negotiate, that's not the issue right now. That's not, I think it's more of a gut check if they raise it. But don't feel like you have to have a number. You don't have to have a number. You can always just say, I'm willing to consider the option, the role if it's, suitable for what I'm looking for. Like you can keep it vague too, right? This is just a screening, and if they like you and you like them, then we'll talk money later. That's it. Okay, you go.
Thank you so
Great
much.
question. Cynthia, you have a question?
I know you had said anticipating as you read through the job and then kind of read through your own experience, you can kind of anticipate the themes that might come up. Perhaps, is there anything that could get you closer to understanding? So I'm saying this because I did an interview on Friday
Yay!
and I
Congrats!
kind of felt like I came off like, oof, that was tough because they
So let me ask you, were you able to anticipate most of the questions? The total recall lets you anticipate up to 75% of the questions. So do you feel like most of them were what you expected?
I'm gonna say yes and no.
Okay, tell me
Um,
more. What happened?
it was a program coordinator role, so was thinking program coordination, but a lot of the questions they asked were patient facing. So like, tell me a time you had
Do you
conflict
have
with
the
the
job
patient.
announcement? Do you want to drop it in the chat? I'm happy to look at the job announcement.
It had like 3 lines, so that's probably where things got kind of gray.
If you want to drop it in the
Oh
chat,
yeah,
I
sure.
can share, I can,
No.
maybe this will help even Yuko or others who are preparing for the job announcement, like what I'm noticing versus what you may have noticed.
So I was prepared to do it in a, like, tell me about program support um in terms of like a quality standpoint.
Oh,
But
that's it.
the,
You dropped
but
it
the
in.
role itself, they asked me a lot with interacting with difficult patients.
Right, Ultimed, Community Health Program Coordinator. First of all, kudos to the callback, right? Great company.
Had like 3 lines. So there was kind of the ambiguity there.
Yes, you could safely assume that they cared about your patient experience more so because they are a healthcare company.
Yeah, so that's where the question came in. Like, is there a way to anticipate it a little better? Because I came in prepared to talk about program coordination, not so much what conflicts I had with patients. And I had examples, so I prepared in a way to blend kind of both patients and programs, but a majority of the interview fell along that patient conflict situation. And I
Yeah. Yeah.
came out kind of
Okay.
defeated in that sense. I mean,
I
I was
see.
ready, but it came out kind of really broken and not.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
So did you feel like this was helpful, the overview?
Yes, but it didn't, like, looking at it, it said um supporting the CHW team. And when I
Correct.
think that, I think, oh, you're supporting their logistics, their caseloads, their work balance, but it didn't say a lot about how you're interfacing with
Patients.
the community.
Right. Right. And
And
that's
that's
fair.
where, right.
And that's fair.
So my
That's
question going
fair.
into all this is like, any better way to anticipate these? Like looking at the
Yeah.
company itself, what the
Yeah.
company's doing, what you're doing, maybe,
Yeah.
or both.
Yeah. I think this is fair in the sense of like, you probably felt like you didn't have much to work with. And I feel like sometimes my mentees hit their head against the wall for these more than the ones that are longer, right? Because at least the ones that give you detail,
Right.
right? They're very clear on the spaces they want you in. So I'll give you that the fact, okay, they didn't say anything here about you interacting with patients, the requirements, right? It was all about data collection, management, analysis. This is where you were coming from.
Yes. I
Okay.
was like, oh, yeah,
Okay.
program coordination and
Okay.
evaluation of quality. That's where I'm like, oh
Now
God.
here's some food for thought, Cynthia. it's maybe not so much that they wanted to know how well you'll interact with patients, right? But it's that you understand the world of patient engagement,
Okay.
right? So their question maybe wasn't stemming from, oh, we need you to interact with patients, so we need to make sure that you know culture, humility, right? Like those kinds.
Right.
No,
Right.
they were coming more from like, have you worked with patients?
Okay.
Have you? So maybe their question was a little too much detail for you, right? What was their question?
Tell me about a time you worked with a difficult patient. Tell me about a time they gave a scenario with you needed to conduct a survey, and when you called the patient, they instead deloaded 10 things that were on their mind. What did you do to mitigate it? And then, obviously you can't get to doing the survey, but showing empathy and listening to them. So I had but I was not anticipating like, oh no.
No, that's good. No,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Uh,
I think they were looking for a little bit of, I love this. I think this was a good one for you, to be honest, Cynthia, because I think it challenges us in our soft skills versus our hard skills,
mhm.
right? Remember how I tell you guys soft skills matter, soft skills matter. And I think you were coming in with like, I know the data, I know the coordination, the logistics, I can help. Great. But you still have to take into context their constituents, their population. And maybe while you were preparing for like, I know how to work with community health workers, health educators, evaluators, this is how I've
Right.
worked with them, this is how I've trained them, this is how I've supported them. Great. I still see the fact that I still see that they describe low income and high risk patients. And so naturally, that is something that you would have had to write up against is like, what kind of low income and high risk patients have I worked with? Even if it wasn't directly with them, how is any of my work,
Right.
right?
So they actually asked, what is your experience working with the Medi-Cal population?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's to them the population they care most about. And maybe that's not clear to you, but you would have still been able to prepare saying like, well, I've worked with, various patients who receive benefits, whether it's from Medi-Cal, right? Whether it's from private insurance, whether it's right. So there still is some framing that you can walk away with. I think at the end of the day, I don't want you to feel like this interview is a loss. It's more of a practice of like, okay, that's how they angled the question. What was the underlying question? Right. And so for me, the underlying question for some of the ones around patients is, right, do you know the environment we're in? And you probably hit on a lot of things they were looking for is empathy, cultural humility, right? Listening, letting them know that they are, experts in their lives, while also helping them stay focused on task and asking them if do they still feel they have, 15 minutes to complete the survey with me, right? Let's bring them back.
Mhm.
That's all they needed to hear. So I think this was still good. This was still a good practice for you, Cynthia. And you might still get a whole callback, right? This was still Friday. You
Yeah.
could still get a second interview. You'd be surprised. Yeah. Way to go. I could see that though, where you might have
Right.
been a little thrown.
Right. So,
It's a good one.
I do have an interview today.
Oh, look at you, Cynthia.
We're not bragging here, but this one is completely different, supporting programs and operations under DHCS and CalAIM. So I'm like, okay, well, how kept coming off of Ultimate, I was kind of like, what am I gonna do?
I love it. I love it. I
Um,
love it. Do you want me to give you some pointers on that one, or do you want to, how do you feel? It's really up to you because it's tomorrow. So I know, and you're
this
amongst the group.
this
Oh
the interview's in 2 hours, but
my God. Okay.
I'm like, should I come today? But I needed the community that you guys
Oh, I
all
love that,
bringing.
Cynthia. You're here for your
Uh,
prep. Well, then was there anything that I can help you with that's throwing you off? Like, is there something that's keeping you or that you're concerned that they may ask you for this next one that I could
um,
at least?
I'm bringing to the table a blend of, yes, a lot of that project because it does, I think, the job is no longer posted. Let me
Did you
look.
save it as a
Yeah,
PDF or Word document? Good girl.
just written through all of it. So I
Reminder to
have
the
a
community to always save your job announcements.
I have a clean copy of it. So let me. All right.
Oh my God. Yay. I love to hear you guys are interviewing. Yay. I think everybody needed to hear that there's action.
I think piggybacking, like I said, off of what Yuko said, how much of this is going to dive into the organization. I have not really looked at, I just looked at their mission and how the mission could speak to my background. And then I think I looked up what DHCS is, what CalAIM, what Medi-Cal, how CalAIM fits into Medi-Cal and how that fits into DHCS. Which they're not asking for. I looked at the requirements, asking for that 3 years of experience in the healthcare delivery system and program implementation and operational support. So I don't think it's asking that you know policies, regulatory reporting, but that is part of.
I would say just make sure what CalAIM entails in general.
Okay, California Advancing Initiatives and Medi-Cal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there's been like, I don't know, over the years, there's just things that are added or changed. So like, just see what it entails to date. Even I need to kind of remind myself. So yeah, so this is the kind of stuff I tell you guys, if it's mentioned in the job announcement, it's fair game.
Okay.
Right? So they're saying CalAIM.
The
Make
incumbent
sure
will
you
support
understand what it is.
Medi-Cal. The incumbent will support Medi-Cal and CalAIM department in implementing projects and new programs, including coordinating regulatory reporting, auditing contracted providers. So I said that this is my weakness. I don't have this
Regulatory
like,
reporting.
yes, well, and auditing contracted providers, but I have worked with providers that have provided services to our patients, such as motive care in medical transportation needs and troubleshooting, I guess, issues that arise and then
Okay.
documenting those.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay. So if they were to ask you, tell us your experience in regulatory reporting, this is kind of have you walk yourself back a little bit. So if you're afraid of like, oh my gosh, the compliance, the regulation aspect, right? Sometimes you're asked about accreditation and HEDIS and like all these other measures, but take a big picture approach and remind yourself where you've helped other companies be compliant, whether it's for funding with partners, right? Or whether it's with their own organization and staying compliant with their protocols and procedures, right? So, well, technically, no, I don't have, you don't say, no, I don't have that, right? That's what framing is supposed to save you. So the winning response, for those of you who are still studying Total Recall, the winning three-pronged response for getting a job offer is frame it, give me a good detail of what you're talking about. This is the STAR method for some of you who are confused. That's in the middle. And then close it with other people in the room, title dropping. Who did you work with? Who was the audience? Anything like that. The reason that last part matters is because you get out of the I, and you show that you are a team player because public health and healthcare is a team sport, right? So there is a reason why that works. But the framing, the first part, is the hardest part to practice because most of us are coming in here. We're coming in with the detail, right? I need you to take a beat and think of how would you frame it? How would you open up their definition of regulatory reporting for them? Right? So, oh, great. I'm so glad you asked. I've helped organizations with compliance and contracts management, right? And implementing grant initiatives. So I've definitely supported, staying on top of the deliverables and meeting those requirements, right? Similarly, and then you think of the closest example, right? So if they're talking about documentation and reporting, maybe you've helped close out with a final report on something, right? So this is where Total Recall helps you guys dig deep about the details outside of the resume. That's why I tell you guys, put away the resume. Don't look at your resume, right? Genuinely ask yourself, have I been in a similar space? Because sometimes your resume leaves those kinds of details out. So is there a space that you see yourself that's like high regulation or reporting or documentation or analysis?
Hypertension coaching for patients and working with clinical teams to report blood pressure numbers, in a timely manner to ensure continued funding from HRSA. who provided
Perfect.
For
That's it.
our PM program.
Yes. Yes. That's the detail that you want to share in the middle.
Winner.
Yes. Yeah. You said HRSA. You
yeah.
said, yes, you said, yes, yes, yes.
PM, yeah, because that's what a lot of their funding does. But
Yes.
this job description had, 10 lines versus the ultimate one had 3. So
Yeah.
I have more to go off of. But
Okay.
like,
But I'm giving you permission to frame it,
okay.
to introduce your relevant example, right? And then close it out with people involved, who you worked with, that kind of thing. I like that you said medical professionals. Give me more examples of who that is referring to. Nurses,
Clinicians,
clinicians.
radiologists,
Thank you.
OT
Right.
doctors.
That's why title dropping helps. Yes, yes. Yes, Cynthia, great yes, another great practice today. Think of it like that. Like, okay, I'm just going to keep practicing until one of them gives me a job. Like, clearly you're getting the callback, so you're doing something right.
Thank you.
Congrats, Cynthia. Yeah, yeah. What
I
a
have a
great,
question for you, Cynthia, if that's okay.
go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll be fully transparent that this job that I got the callback from, my former colleague knew someone there, so that's how I got connected, I think.
Okay.
But did you know anyone in the organizations that you applied for so far that you were getting the callback from? Was it like a cold application where you didn't know anyone?
Good question. Ultimate, I did not know anyone. But that one came because I used to work at an FQHC. So Ultimate is also a large FQHC. For CalOptima, the one that I'm doing today, I know someone in a different department who we've been classmates in my undergraduate days. So he actually has been contacted from me. And I think HR might have reached out. I'm not sure, but they did ask me in the screening if I know someone. So I found out about CalOptima because I'm not located nearby. This one is a different part of California. I live in the Bay Area in the north. This one's in the south. And so through just LinkedIn searches, I found my old classmate who works there, and I just did a title drop in the HR interview.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. If you guys want to, that's fine. I think it's more about finding the role
Yeah.
that you then reach out to say, hey, I applied to this.
Mhm.
That would be
That's
more
what I did.
appropriate. Right, right, right. But the community is here to remind you, you don't have to do that. I mean, I'm helping people get interviews without having to do that. But if you can, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Good
Yeah, I
job.
think I just went to this like tech job fair thing or networking event because my background also is in data science, and they were just like the amount of job application that they're getting for each position is crazy, like hundreds of thousands, and like knowing someone makes a difference. Like that's the message that I was hearing, and yeah, I think it makes me nervous. Like I have to know people to apply.
No, you don't. You don't. No, you don't. You don't. You don't. That's why Public Health Hired is here to remind you guys that you don't have to. And I also remind you that people can open the door for you, but you still have to study the job and interview and nail it, right? So I deal with a lot of people who also told me, oh, I thought I was going to get it because I knew someone and I didn't get it, right? I also hear the other side of it. So, I think, and you're also coming from tech people. Tech people are different minded people. So just, you're welcome to use your network as you see fit. You are a free person, but I try to not add to the just nerves about it all. It's not about, it's not about who you know. It's how you speak. It's how you get screened through the system. It's if you're able to hold your ground when they ask you 5 times, tell us your experience in project management, right? It's also that part of it. So just be mindful. Your network can help you show you the doors, but you still have to close them. The work is still heavy, so to speak. Right, Cynthia? It's not like your friend is going to be in the interview with you.
No.
You still gotta
That'd be
nail the
great.
interview. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. It's just grounding for me to be here after being in that very different space. So thank you for
Yeah. Of course.
Zoila, hi. It's
Oh,
Allison.
hi, Allison. Hi, nice to hear
Hi.
your voice. You've been
Yes.
hiding.
Um, it's I've been busy. I've had some meetings that have just been at the same time. And
Okay.
I was very busy, but actually had a experience recently where I was sure I was gonna get it. I thought the interview went well. I knew people that, I mean, I knew the person that was interviewing. I had other people who said they were going to put in a good word for me. Like it, I was trying to approach this with like the most um, positive. You know, my people are there for me, and we had a great conversation. And then I got an email that uh, I didn't get it, and I'm going back, of course, and trying to figure out the why. And I wanted to share, just uh, given this conversation, I wanted to share that I don't know what the why is. And part of me doesn't want to because of many reasons. I don't know if I can handle it.
Oh, Allison, I'm so
I know.
sorry. I'm so
And
sorry.
um, yeah, I was gonna say there's also been like 4 or 5 positions now, and I just got another email about a position that I had applied for a couple weeks ago that they're putting on hold. This has happened to me like
Ugh,
several times.
this is
Um,
happening too. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
and so, I haven't been on these calls recently, but I'm still trying to
I'm
find
so
something.
sorry. I'm so
Uh,
sorry. I'm so sorry. I
so
know. And Allison, I'm giving Allison kudos, and I want to give you a hug in person if I could. You're all the way in Florida and I'm in California, furthest possible. But I genuinely, I've been thinking about you and wondering if things are going better or the same. And it sounds like it's a little bit of the same, of like whether it's your network or it's these cold applications, it's still the same. Like, what the F is going on with getting a job offer. So I'm so sorry. Like, this sucks.
I
I'm so
appreciate it. It
sorry.
sucks and it's weird. I've been doing some other things and I just got a message. Somebody wants to interview me on a podcast, and it's
Cool.
like somebody I know who they are. They're a real person who does a really cool podcast. So more to come on that when I learn more
Yeah,
about it.
yes. Send me the
But it's
podcast.
so
Yeah.
weird. And I will
Uh,
say, I see a lot of different names here that I haven't known, but I see a lot of opportunities and stuff for people that are just coming out of school. I've been learning on this, and I don't want to share this in a negative light. It's just that it is really hard. I've got a lot of experience, but that doesn't necessarily matter when they're pulling the jobs to be hired in the first place. And granted, I think what it came down to with this most recent one is it was probably just not the right fit, and with things I just can't know and can't control. And
Allison, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, this is probably the scariest, in the sense of like you were looking to your network to at least, help you crack this nut. And you're right, this kind of does help inform, Cynthia and Yuko, as you guys consider your network, that this can still be the reality of it. Is like not even your network can save you. And I hate to say that out loud, but that is like that is the truth. Even I've experienced that directly, where like I'm still out here by myself figuring it out. So, I don't know if this is, I know some people are taking a beat to recollect themselves as things evolve, right? So you're always welcome to take a step back and, ask yourself those harder questions that maybe you've been afraid to ask yourself. I mean, some people are frankly like looking at public health, whether they got to go or not. Like, I'm not saying that's for you, Allison. I'm just saying some of us are having these existential, like, I guess, crises or questions, or just like, what the F, like, what is it about my skill set and what I'm asking for, what is so not landing. And so, I'm happy to meet with you again, Ellison, when you want to talk. No charge, no, I'm happy to just call you.
I love
I
that.
feel you. I feel your heartbreaking right now because you've been coming to these office hours. In fact, I know we've celebrated your interviews coming up, and just to hear that, not even your network is giving you just what you thought it would, that's the reality of this. So, I can
I will
always touch base, but I also feel like I don't know how much longer it's going to be for you to get that resolve.
I appreciate that. I'd love to chat. And I think I'm in a weird position. I am kind of caught between having a decent amount of experience and a good background, but you don't have everything. And I mean, the world is what it is. And thank you, everyone. I see all the
Yeah.
comments, and I will say that my network is cheering me on. They're sending me it's encouraging and it's sweet. Those that I know they're sending me positions that sometimes I've applied for. Sometimes I've been like, nope, that one's not for me. And so I will say that there are people on my side, and that's what keeps me going. Um,
And
and it still doesn't pay the
it just
bills, but
And Allison, I'm so glad you
yeah,
showed up today. And I'm also wondering if when we talk, we could have an honest conversation of, because this is what I find for those of you who are slightly seasoned, been in it for a while, like Allison, who, I mean, you're the president of the Public Health Association in Florida. So like you have a certain caliber behind you. But I'm also wondering if that means you're applying to jobs where you're overqualified and no one's straight up just telling you that from the beginning instead of wasting your time. So there is a mix of like, are you shooting for things where you're just moving laterally and the hiring managers see that and know that? And you're like, okay with that, right? You're like, no, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm genuinely okay with that. But to be honest, that's not what the job market is for. Like, it's to be honest, it's harder to make a lateral move sometimes, right? Because you have to
it,
convince them that even though you've done similar work, you're willing to keep doing it for another company. So it's a mix of, are you genuinely overqualified and don't know it? And are you shooting, like, are you reaching enough? Or are you overshooting, right? It's like this weird space we find ourselves in on where's that sweet spot.
yeah,
So I could, I'm happy to at least inform you based on what you've been applying to, like, oh yeah, that one's, you're overqualified. That one I don't see you in, right? So I can
yeah,
at least give you some of that to help you feel like, okay, maybe I need to, because for my mentees who are with me again after, like, say the current, I've helped them get, since this is now 5th year of public health hired, I've helped some of you get jobs and they're coming back to me 2-3 years later saying, I want to work with you again. But I'm not going to try to keep them in that, like, right, same space. If we
right.
find some, we will, like, we'll talk about it. And then even they're honest with me. We're like, no, Zoila, that's too much of what I'm doing now. I'm like, you're right. Right. So then we're
Yeah.
pushing slightly enough so that they're applying to something that's within a higher reach and not keeping them in that lateral space. So food for thought, Allison, I know it's a lot, but we can connect. Let's connect. We'll figure out a way. I know you're on LinkedIn. We'll find a time.
Yeah, I'll message you. Thank you. I
Okay.
really
Of
appreciate
course.
it. And
Of course.
yeah,
Oh my
I'm glad I
gosh.
was able to come on today, and
Yeah. Yeah. Come next week. We're here.
I will
Cheering
try.
you
I might
on.
have two,
Yeah.
but we'll
Yeah.
keep having one that's conflicts. So
Okay. Thank you, Allison.
yeah,
Thank you for
thank
coming.
you.